Davenport, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Press audio checks. Sorry, everyone has to deal with this. Apologize. I can count to 20 if I really try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good, good, little tinny. Ron? My ambience sucks. One, two, three, four. That's better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Press, you are all good. All right. Press, final mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2. Ron, is Tim good? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That'd be great. You can, yeah. I'm teasing. It's hot.
Good morning. If you have a seat, could you please take your seat and we will begin? Good morning, and thank you so much for coming out this morning to Mickey's Country Cafe. I'd like to also officially thank, for their hospitality, Bill and Mickey for letting us use their Country Cafe today. Thank you. Is there anyone out there who wants to put a Republican in the White House in the fall? Well, soon we will hear from one of the people who hope to do just that. It is our honor today to welcome Governor Christie back to Scott County. Governor Christie has been here 3 times over the last year. I find it interesting that the last time he was here, some of you might have joined us at Jersey Grill. I was unable to be there. I'm sorry, Governor. I was actually in your home state, New Jersey. So we did a little reversal of location at that point. So it is an honor and a thrill to welcome the governor back to Scott County today. Please join me in giving a warm Scott County welcome to Governor Chris Christie.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I want to thank our leader here in Scott County. Thank you very much for your introduction. Thanks for the hard work you do for Republicans. Thanks for the hard work you did for Governor Branstad, getting him reelected. I was happy to be here to help with that too. And man, Iowa is a much better place when Terry Branstad is the governor, isn't it? He's a really good man. All right, well, I'm hot off the stage in Milwaukee. And I couldn't wait to get off that stage and get here to Iowa, because what I say to everybody is, the stage is nice, those debates are nice, good opportunity for us to speak and say what's on our minds and answer some questions. But the real work for being elected President of the United States happens right here in Iowa. So I wanted to get right back here and get right back to work with all of you. And the way I like to get to work is doing it this way. I like to have these town hall meetings. I've done 134 of them as governor of New Jersey in my own state. And now I'm going to be doing a lot of them here in Iowa and New Hampshire to make sure that folks get to ask me the questions that they want to hear the answers to. So I'm just going to say something quick off the top and then go right to your questions. And the rest of our time together will be you asking me questions that are on your mind. You know, you never know in a presidential race what's going to catch people's attention. You know that as you're talking about issues that you believe are important for the country's future, that people are listening. I get the questions that come from all of you over the internet, at meetings like this and in other places. But you never know what's going to catch people. And I learned that really acutely in the last week or so. In the last week or so, Huffington Post, not often a big fan of Chris Christie's, but the Huffington Post a week ago Friday put up an excerpt from one of my town hall meetings that I had in New Hampshire. And it was me talking about the issue of addiction in our country. Yeah. And as of this morning, when we were coming in here, 8 million people have now viewed that video on the internet, 8 million people. And what I was talking about was the issue of addiction and what it really means for our country. I am a law enforcement guy. A law enforcement. I've spent 7 years of my life before I became governor as the United States Attorney in New Jersey, making sure that justice was done, that the law was enforced fairly and evenly, impartially, so that the folks who pay the bills, who play by the rules in this society, understand that justice is not just a word, but that it has to be a way of life in our country. But what I've also learned over time is that we need to deal with the issue of drug addiction differently than we've been dealing with it over the last 30 years. Over the last 30 years, we've been basically sending anybody who's anywhere near the drug issue, regardless of whether their conduct was violent or not, regardless whether they were dealers or just users, we've been sending everybody to jail. The federal jail population has risen tremendously. States have been having to build new prisons to put all these people in jail. Now, for the ones who are violent and the ones who deal this poison in our neighborhoods, they're always going to be a jail cell that I'll be more than happy to welcome them into and keep them in for people who do that kind of stuff. And no one in this race will be tougher than I'll be on making sure the law's been enforced, and you don't have to wonder about that. You've seen me do it for in a place where there is a decent amount of crime at times in New Jersey. But Chicago? A close and hearty second. I will tell you, though, that for those folks who are small, petty criminals who are addicted to drugs, we've tried now for years sending those folks to jail. It doesn't work. They go into jail drug addicted. They don't get any treatment when they're there. They come out drug addicted. And then we wonder why the recidivism rate is up near 70% for those people. They commit crimes once again to support their habit. Here's why, everybody. It's a disease. Drug addiction is a disease. And we need to come to grips with that and say, here's the good news. There's treatment available that can help people, that can give them an opportunity to rebuild their lives. And in that video, I talk about two examples. I talk about my own mother, who was addicted to cigarettes. My mom started smoking when she was 16 years old. 1940, well before there was any Surgeon General's report, well before there was anybody telling you that smoking was bad for you, my mom, like many teenagers in her time, started smoking. But once she found out it was bad for her, my mother tried to quit. She tried over and over again. I watched her as a kid. She tried the patches, the gum. She tried hypnosis. We loved the hypnosis part, by the way, because it just mellowed her out a little bit, which was mother a gift, believe me. But despite all that, she could never quit. She was addicted to nicotine. And when she was diagnosed at 71 years old with lung cancer, no one said to me, don't treat her. Nobody in our society said, well, you know, listen, Chris, she got what she deserved. Smoking's bad. We've known it since 1964. She had plenty of opportunities to quit. She didn't. She has cancer. Now she's going to die. And we're not going to help her because she's getting what she deserved. No one said that to me. The doctor said, let's try treatments. Friends prayed for her, came to visit her, tried to lift her spirits. And everybody said, always said to me, are we doing everything we can to help her? Yet, if it's a drug addiction, somehow we make a moral judgment on that. We say, well, they're getting what they deserved. I have to tell you the truth, everybody. This can happen to anyone. There's probably none of us, I would suspect, in this room today who haven't made a bad decision in our life. Haven't made a decision that when we did it, or maybe right after we did it, or maybe years later, looked back on it and said, wow, that was a bad one. Shouldn't have done that. And I wish I could take it back. And maybe we did something to take it back. Or maybe we changed our lives to go to another course. But we survived it. What if that decision were about drugs? What if we decided one night to try heroin? We decided one night to try cocaine. We decided one night to try some other drug. We decided to take a few too many of those Percocet or those Oxycontins that our doctor gave us. We had a backache, teeth out, or some other problem that they give us too many of those pills for, and we don't get rid of them and they're there on the shelf and we decide to take a few more of them. What if that was the bad decision? And what if, in fact, part of you succumbed to that disease? In our society now, we don't talk about it. See, I had no problem with telling people my mom had lung cancer. I wasn't ashamed of it. Yet, if it was a child of ours who was addicted to drugs, we don't talk about that because we think it reflects upon us. We think it's a failing of ours, that somehow if we were a better mother or father or husband or wife or sister or brother, this wouldn't have happened. It's not true, everybody. And we need to help these folks. And there's no difference, by the way, whether you're rich or poor, whether you have a great education or very little education, whether you live in a big fancy house or whether you live in a small studio apartment, doesn't matter. I said on that video, there but for the grace of God go I. There but for the grace of God go I. And I think we could all say that. And if we believe that in our heart, I'll tell you what else I believe. I'm pro-life. And I think if you're pro-life, you need to be pro-life for the whole life, not just part of it. See, it's easy to be pro-life for the 9 months they're in the womb. It's easy. They haven't done anything to disappoint us yet. In the womb, they're perfect. They're perfect. And when they get out, that's when it starts to get complicated. It's more complicated to be pro-life then. But I want to tell you, both for myself and for us as a party, we are the pro-life party, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. But we need to be pro-life for the whole life. We need to look at that 16-year-old young woman, drug addicted, laying on the floor of the county lockup, and we got to be pro-life for her too. Her life is just as precious as the life in the womb. The middle-aged man addicted to painkillers who can't go to work and can't support his family is a gift from God as well. See, what the Democrats try to do to us on issues like this is they try to say, look at how narrow the Republicans. We reject that. And we need to start talking about it. Pro-life is pro-life for the whole life. Because what undergirds our philosophy as people who are pro-life is that every life is a precious and individual gift from God. Every one. Regardless of its faults, regardless of the mistakes that they make. And so I'm talking about drug addiction because it's destroying families. It's destroying families in our society. You go see that video. I talk about my friend. I won't go through it today. But I talk about my friend who I went to law school with, who had everything that we would define as success in life. And a year and a half ago, they found him dead in a quart of vodka and an empty bottle of Percocet. It can happen to anyone. And we need to get to truth. By the way, for those of you out there who are just number counters, we need number counters in our life. Remember this, in New Jersey, it costs $49,000 a year to incarcerate someone. It costs $24,000 a year to give them a year of inpatient drug treatment. We can treat 2 people for every person we incarcerate. And if we're successful in treating them, they go back to being productive members of our society, not just good taxpayers, but good moms and dads, and good wives and husbands, and good sisters and brothers. And we can't calculate in numbers what that means to the strength of the fabric of our society, but we know in our heart it means something. And ever since that video has come out, everywhere I've gone since then, I've had people come up to me and tell me their story. I had a couple come up to me outside a town hall meeting in Hanover, New Hampshire, who said they came over to the town hall meeting to thank me for speaking out about this issue. And I said, well, thank you very much. And they said, it's particularly meaningful to us. Our son died a week ago today of a heroin overdose. A week ago. 23 years old. Those parents walked over to that town hall meeting in the throes of their grief to say thank you, because we're talking about it. The father looked at me and said, keep talking. I don't want my son to have died in vain. The next morning, I had a town hall meeting in Plymouth, New Hampshire. After it was over, a couple came up to me and said, Governor, we're in the 5th year of trying to get our son off of heroin. It dominates every day of our life. We saw your video and we went on the internet to see where you were going to be next. And we left our house at 4:30 this morning to drive 3.5 hours from Connecticut to this town hall meeting because we want to encourage you to continue to talk about this. And this morning I walked in and met a woman right here who grabbed me on the way in and told me that she lost her son 4 years ago to a drug overdose. She's now adopted his children and are raising his children. And I could tell from the look in her eye that there is not a moment that she doesn't miss her child. We're better than this. We're better than this. And in our hearts, we believe that we can make a difference in people's lives, and we need to. And I'm telling you, that's why I'm running for president. I'm running for president not just because of that issue, but because we can make a difference in people's lives. We can change the world. And the reason I know that's true? Because one person standing up to lead is the only thing that's ever changed the world. So I know it can happen. And that's why I'm talking about that issue, because every life makes a difference. And you all know that just as well as I do, and you know it without me telling you. But the job of a good leader is to stand up and remind the people he seeks to lead to remember they're better angels. Life puts all kinds of burdens on us, all kinds of distractions, all kinds of hurdles in front of us. But we need to remember our better angels. And our angels say we reach out to those in trouble and we help them. We help them. And as president, I'm going to talk about this. Be in the shadows anymore, everybody. I want us to reach out and help each other. That's what a compassionate America does. That's what a America does, because we absolutely respect every life. And as conservatives, we believe that there's we can do both by doing this. It's a twofer. Give everybody. We should grab them when we can. So I want to answer any questions you've got this morning about anything. Now, different than other candidates' town hall meetings from what we only got one rule in our town hall meeting. Raise your hand. You get to ask a question. You don't have to write things down and let my staff review it beforehand. Who does town halls like that? I shouldn't say the person's name, but their initials are Hillary Rodham Clinton. Okay? Now, I want to tell you that I did not come from Milwaukee alone. I did not come unaccompanied. I have brought reinforcements. My wife of 29 years is here with me this morning. The First Lady of New Jersey, Mary Pat Christie, is here. Tell you one quick story before we start. We were in New Hampshire about 4 months ago or so. We were staying in a hotel in Manchester. We came downstairs first thing in the morning, and the manager of the hotel came over to greet me and to thank me for staying in the hotel. Mary Pat went off over to the little coffee shop they had over there to get herself a cup of coffee. So she went over and did that. I chatted with the manager for a moment. He thanked me for staying. We said, I think it's that you just out of here and go into the car, that you stay here and wait for your young staff person. True story. That you wait for your young staff person to get her coffee and then walk out with her. Knowing that presidential campaigns are hotbeds for rumor, I said to him right away, not my staff person. That's my with. Loves this story, of course, because she is called young. So I've made a deal with her when she's out at these town hall meetings with me. I said, listen, I will tell that story where everyone sees you as the young staff person, but in return, when I get to work and start asking questions, you have to help me like a young staff person, and I'm going to take off my coat and you hold it. And she said, all right, so that's what we're going to do. All right, raise your hand. Who's got questions? Anybody? Any questions on anything? Yes, sir, right here, and I'll hand you my microphone.
Governor, I think it's awesome. You've got the guts to address the whole entitlement issue. And the first thing that people come back with is, well, in fact, your friend Governor Huckabee says, yeah, but everybody's paid in and they've earned what they get. So how do you deal with that to make it not an issue for you, but to get your point across, because we have to deal with it?
Well, thank you for noticing. And listen, understand what this entitlement reform problem is all about. 71% of all federal spending today, in today's budget, is on entitlements and debt service. Government, your money's gone. There is no money. The government lied to you and stole from you. They lied to you when they told you it was going to be in a trust fund. There's no trust fund. They said it's a lockbox. Remember Al Gore, lockbox? Yeah. Right? You know what's in the lockbox? A stack of IOUs. Because the government's taking your payroll tax money today and spending it today and telling you when you need it, don't worry, we'll pay you back. Okay, that's the fact of the matter. So his money, and Governor Huckabee says, if it's the government's fault, why should you have to pay for it? And he said this last night on the stage. I didn't want to get into it with him again, but I was just like, well, who's going to pay for it, Mike? Like, is this like my mom used to tell me when I was growing up and would go to the store with her? And I'd see something I wanted, right? And I'd say, Mom, can we buy that? And she'd say, oh, Christopher, of course we can. I'm like, really? Glad I went to the store with you today. This is great. She goes, yeah, listen, just go home, go in the backyard, pick the money off the money tree, and bring that money back, and you can buy that. I'm like, well, Mom, we don't have a money tree. She's like, exactly. That's what I feel like asking Governor Huckabee. Like, okay, so the people in the United States are not going to pay for what the government did. Well, then who's going to? Like, who's going to? I mean, I absolutely understand his sentiment, but I live in the real world, and I got bills to pay. So how am I going to do it? There are two ways to do this now. My suggestion, which is to take benefits away from folks who don't need them. Or Hillary Clinton's idea, which is to take the cap off the Social Security tax and have you pay payroll tax on every nickel you make. Now, we're both trying to get at the same people, those who are making a lot of money. But let me ask you a question. We can agree that the government lied to you and stole your money. Why do you want to give them more? Like, because this time they're going to go, no, I swear, this time we're actually putting it in the lockbox. It's going to stay there, and it'll be there for you. Please, please, don't believe them. It's not true. This would be like if you went to a corner bank and you deposited your money and you knew the guy who owned the bank, and then the bank went belly up and all your money was gone. And then 5 years later, same guy opened up a new bank in town. And he came to you and said, hey, I got this new bank. You want to deposit your money? You would look at him and say, are you nuts? I remember 5 years ago when I lost all my money in your bank. No, thank you. Yet for the government, we seem to say, well, all right. If they really want it, I guess, okay. No. I'm there to say no. There's only two ways to fix this problem. More money in or less money out. I'm a less money out guy. They're both lousy choices. But I'm a less money out guy because I don't want you to trust your government with another nickel of your money. And the same thing on Medicare. Increase the eligibility age 2 years, phase it in over 25. And if you're making over $200,000 a year in retirement with that $4 to $5 million saved outside your home, this is liquid assets, then right now we subsidize your Medicare premium 75% for that person. I say let's only subsidize it 10%. You still get a subsidy, just get less of one. Why? Because you don't need it. You have the money to pay for it and get good health care. That's what we should do. Now, the fact is that we can continue down this road, running up more debt, borrowing more money from the Chinese, but eventually the game is going to be over. Eventually, we'll be Greece. And we don't want that. And so I'm taking on this entitlement issue. And by the way, one other thing, back when I gave the speech in April, I told people that the Social Security Disability Insurance Program was ready to go bankrupt and it was going to go belly up by 2016. Well, you know this deal the Congress just made with the president on the budget, this sellout that we just did, okay? One of the things I told you back in April, go back and look at the speech. I said the president wants to steal money from the Social Security Retirement Fund in the Social Security Disability Fund to prop up the Disability Insurance Fund. I predicted it in April. Rather than reform the program, kick people out of the program who aren't truly disabled, and do things the right way, he'll steal more money from you. And guess what? The Republicans in Congress were complicit in it. And they just stole $150 billion from the retirement fund and put it in the disability fund. Listen, everybody, when I was a prosecutor, I would call that a Ponzi scheme. And I would prosecute those people and send them to jail. Except this is the United States Congress and the President of the United States. So you know what they call it? Making laws. It's ridiculous. And that's where we're headed with this. And so I'm talking about this because there's no easy way to fix it. But we better fix it. Governor Huckabee said at the first debate, no, he was going to pass a tax that was going to fix this problem because it was going to also tax, and these were his words, not mine, pimps and prostitutes. Now, I got to tell you the truth. I don't know what I envisioned when I said I was going to run for President of the United States, but standing on a stage and hearing a candidate for pimps and the prostitutes of America, we're going to save Social Security, was not one of the things I thought I was going to hear. 18 months, I've been to 49 of our 50 states. Only Alaska remains unscathed from having a visit from me. And as far as I can tell, not enough to fix Social Security and Medicare, okay? So we need to get real about this. And here's the last point. This also tells you something about the candidates. I trust you enough to tell you that. See, if everybody knows it, but they're afraid to tell you because they think if they tell you that, you won't like them. And if you don't like them, you won't vote for them. And if you don't vote for them, then they don't get to be president. I trust you. I trust the American people. I think you're ready to hear the truth and that you want to hear it. And that while you won't like it, because who would, you'd rather hear the truth from your leaders than have them continue to whistle a happy tune and you get a bigger bill down the road. Because that's what's going to happen. It will come due. I want to make it come due now. Because I want folks who are on Social Security now to do it, to be able to have their benefit. And I want Social Security to be what it was always supposed to be, which is an insurance policy for those people who work hard, play by the rules, and pay into the system. That they don't have to choose in their elder years between rent and heat and food. We don't want people growing old in America without dignity. And Social Security helps to do that. So I need you to stand with me to fix it. If we fix it, it will be one of the greatest things that our generation has done for the next generation. We got to decide if we're ready to make the sacrifice or not. So thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate it. All right. Yes, ma'am, right there. This lady right here.
Debate last night, and my godson just came home. I was surprised he listened. How did you do that to me?
For those of you who may not have heard the question, she said her young son came home last night, college age, she said, and he said, all these people say these things. How do I know they're going to put their words into action? I'll vote for the person who puts their words into action. And she wants me to prove to her son that I'm the person that can do that. Listen, lots of people have said lots of things about me over my career. as I'm sure you've heard. Being misunderstood is never one of them. And I was teased this morning by someone when I was doing one of these interviews. They said, you know, Governor, enough to do what you say you're going to do. I look at what I've done, and I think it'll give you a good example of, you know, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about being governor of New Jersey because you need to know what I want to do as president. But remember something. I'm governor of one of the most densely populated, the most ethnically diverse, and one of the most unruly darn states you're ever going to find in your life. Amen. It is unruly. And anyone who's lived there knows exactly what I'm talking about. And so to be governor of that state is not easy. But what we've done in that state is what we said we were going to do for folks. We told them there were going to be no more tax increases in New Jersey after 115 tax and fee increases in the 8 years before I became governor. Listen to that. 115 tax and fee increases in the 8 years before I became governor at the state level. Americans for Tax Reform now says that I'm governor in American history. Now, I couldn't do it alone. I need my liberal Democratic legislature who keeps sending me tax increases for me to veto. But when I told the people in New Jersey we weren't going to have any more, we weren't. Second, I told them I was going to make government smaller. The state payroll today is 15% smaller in terms of the number of people working than it was the day I walked in as governor. That's nearly 10,000 employees without any layoffs, attrition, and then reorganizing to provide the same services with fewer people. We've been able to do it. We're spending $2 billion less in discretionary spending than we did 8 years ago because I said I was going to make government smaller. I told them I was going to, we did. We passed a property tax cap in New Jersey at 2% and capped how much public sector workers' wages can go up at 2%. Because if you let their wages go up 8 and you have a tax cap at 2, the math doesn't work. We've done that. We reformed teacher tenure for the first time in 105 years. So now if a teacher gets one failing evaluation or 2 years in a row of a below average evaluation, they can lose their tenure. Because no one should be guaranteed a job for life for having done their job well for 3 years. And I've done something that they haven't figured out how to do in Washington. I actually work with the other side. I work with the other side. I've got a Democratic legislature. Listen, the people of New Jersey, when I call them unruly, there's lots of other things I can call them too, but the bottom line is that, you know, they have elected twice now a conservative Republican governor with a liberal Democratic legislature. They're like the 14-year-old boy in the basement doing the science experiment, right? Let's mix these two things together and see what'll happen, right? And they've done it. So my obligation is not to stand in the corner and hold my breath and send out nasty press releases and not work with these folks. My obligation is to try to figure out everything I can do to work with them. And all those things I talked about are things that I did with a Democrat legislature because I've gotten to know them, I've gotten to work with them, I compromise where it makes sense to, I stand up like on tax increases and fight them where I need to fight them and veto those tax increases. And I'm happy to fight with Democrats when I need to. But the other side of that coin is you sent me there to do a job. And the American people are tired of looking at Washington, D.C. and saying they never get the job done. There's always an excuse. There's always a fight. There's always bickering. You can't have that anymore. And you can do it while standing up for your principles. There's no reason not to do that. So, you know, tell your, and someone who has been tested by a state that has 750 more Democrats than Republicans, that before I won in 2009 had not elected a Republican to anything statewide in 12 years. And we have not elected a Republican to the United States Senate in 43 years. It is the longest streak of any state in the nation not to elect a Republican. In that kind of state, also with the largest and most liberal media in the world in New York City, and tested by partisan unions who have spent tens of millions of dollars to try to defeat me. Tell them that despite all that, I got these things done, and that makes me the person most tested, most mature, and most ready to do two things in this order. Stand on that stage next September and prosecute the case against Hillary Clinton and make sure she doesn't get within 10 miles of the White House. And then after that, then after that, go in and be a president who's going to work with everybody. I said this in my closing last night at the debate, and I don't know if many of you saw it. But I used that 30 seconds to say this, and I'm going to repeat it. That the most disgraceful thing I've seen in this campaign was in the Democratic debate 2 weeks ago. Hillary Clinton, when asked, which enemies are you proudest of? She said, Republicans. Now, in a world where we have Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the mullahs in Iran and Vladimir Putin, Hillary Clinton said her proudest enemy are the Republicans, fellow Americans. Listen, everybody, you want to change Washington, D.C., you want to try to end the gridlock and end the craziness? Why would you ever send someone to Washington as president who believes her enemies are fellow Americans? Because we have a different point of view. You can write this down. I promise it to you. When I go to Washington, I will do what I say, and I will say what I mean, and I will work to unite the entire country. We'll have differences, but we'll work together, and I will never see Democrats as my enemy. Democrats are fellow Americans. I don't agree with them on much, on the things I need to fight them on, but they are not the enemy. The enemy is Vladimir Putin. The enemy are the mullahs in Iran. The enemy is ISIS and Al-Qaeda, who wants to kill innocent Americans and impose radical Islam on our country and behead Christians around the world because of their religious beliefs. Those are enemies, Madam Secretary, not American people. So that's what I'll do as president.
First off, Governor Christie, thank you for coming to Iowa. It was great seeing you last night. And I just have an observation. My wife is born and raised in Ronald Reagan's hometown, and she's still looking for the Ronald Reagan Republican, and she thinks she found it in the first round of debates. And I says, don't worry about it. You know, everything's going to work out fine. And then she saw how you demonstrated and got your message out and totally commanded the stage and said what you wanted to say. And then we watched the second debate. She still said that you were the best candidate out there from the first and the second debates. So congratulations. And I thought you did a fantastic job last night, okay?
Thank you. First off, let me observe that you married a very smart woman. Very smart woman. And listen, when it got announced that I was going to be in the first debate, not in the second debate, and everybody kept saying, Jesus, this is a disappointment, it's an awful blow to you. And listen, two things. First, you could put a podium outside Mickey's here, and as long as they give me a microphone and a camera, I'll be there, okay? Second is, I've never, ever in my entire life had any trouble getting attention, okay? And so last night, they put a microphone in front of me and they put a camera in front of me, and they give me the opportunity to speak to the American people. You will never hear me whine or moan or complain about anything, because I'm getting the opportunity to have the greatest privilege any American can ever have. I'm running for President of the United States. So any problems I have compared to the problems that the American people are facing every day. So my job is to shut up about the minutia, talk to you about what my vision for the country is, and then go and win this damn thing. That's my job. That's what I'm going to do. Yes, ma'am, over there. Got a microphone for you right there.
First off,
It'll go. Give it one more try. They're a little slow on the uptake.
First off, thank you for your handling of Hurricane Sandy. I have family back in New Jersey, and they're safe.
Good.
Secondly, the question is, you see a lot of these horrendous shootings, mass shootings, and I have heard you speak about it being more of a mental health issue than a gun control issue. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Let's start off with this. New York City and Chicago have some of the tightest gun control laws in the world. Yet murders are up 19% this year in Chicago and 11% in New York. If gun control laws were to fix that problem, those should be safe havens, given how hard it is for those places. And on the mass shootings, let's remember what every one of those shootings has shown. It has been a young man, usually, who is deeply disturbed. and has evaded the mental health system. You look at what happened in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. That's a young man who, when you hear people interviewed afterwards, they all said, yeah, we knew there was something going on there. He was angry. He talked about violence. He was playing violent video games incessantly. What gun control law would have ever stopped that? He didn't buy a gun. It was his mother's guns that she kept in the house. He got those guns from his mother, turned them on her first, and then went off and did the awful, awful killings that happened at that elementary school in Sandy Hook. There's not a gun law that would have solved that, absent banning all guns in America. And guess what? We tried doing something like that, right? We tried banning all alcohol in America. There are plenty of places you can still get a drink, at least from the history I've read. And let's remember that criminals do not go to a gun shop, do a background check, and a waiting period. They buy guns in the black market on the streets. They take the serial numbers off the guns, they use them, they dump them, and then they go buy new ones. These laws, what they affect, are law-abiding citizens who want to have guns to hunt, to want to have guns to collect, want to have guns to protect themselves. And by the way, we have a Second Amendment right to that. And I don't think that the founders made it the Second Amendment by mistake. Right? The First Amendment, it's about freedom of speech and freedom of religion and freedom of association, freedom of the press, all things that undergirded the society. Freedom of to practice your religion, freedom to speak your mind, freedom to associate with whoever you want to associate with or not associate with, and freedom of a press to report on what's going on in an open society. The next one is about the American people being able to maintain and own firearms. So what I'd say we need to do is things I've been trying to do in New Jersey. We need to make it easier for folks to be involuntarily committed who are showing signs of mental illness. Doctors right now in this country are hamstrung in their ability to be able to do that, and we need to have tort reform as well, because they're so damn fearful of being sued for anything they do that they hesitate to do it. That's not only to protect us, it's to protect those people from themselves, because the last thing I'll say in these mass shootings is every time, almost every time, the perpetrator winds up dead, either at the hands of the police or at their own hand. We need to protect these human beings from themselves. They're disturbed. They need help. Yes, it will protect us too, and that's very important for government to do, but we need to protect them against themselves. And so anybody who's going to run out here and say this gun control law or that gun control law will fix those problems, I want them to explain, and I can't wait to get on the stage with Hillary Clinton next September, because you know she'll be all for 8 new gun control laws. Well, no one ever challenges her on it. So I can't wait to be on the stage and say, you know, Mrs. Clinton, the only thing you've ever known about prosecutors is that they investigate you. I've actually been a prosecutor. I've actually done the work. And I'd like you to try to tell me, somebody who was in charge in New Jersey of going after the gun runners and the drug dealers, you tell me how your law makes my neighbors safer. And I can't wait to ask her that question. And I can't wait to hear her ridiculous answer. Because the more I get her to talk, everybody, I guarantee you this, get ready. When I'm debating Hillary Clinton, there will be me. And you may at times be saying, what's he doing up there? He should talk more. No, no, no. I want her to talk more. Because when she lays out her liberal, socialist agenda for this country, America's going to say, hell no, man. We're voting for that guy right over there. And then we'll do it on this issue as well. Right here we go.
Governor, I recently read where, being we've made relations with Cuba, that there's a member of the New Jersey law enforcement who was killed by a criminal, speaking of criminals, who is now wanted his extradition. Number one, I want to ask, do you have the power, or if you send in and out of Newark to Cuba until you get him back, do you have the power to bring that man back, or does Washington?
Only Washington does, and only Washington has the ability to stop those flights in and out of the airport, because the FAA controls it. Was murdered in cold blood on the road by a woman named Joanne Chesimard. She was a member of the Black Panther Party. And she killed this state trooper in cold blood. She was arrested, tried, and convicted of murder. The Black Panther Party, while she was being transferred from, broke her out, and she wound up escaping to Cuba. The last 40 years, Cuba has paid her, harbored her, and protected the trooper who still lives in New Jersey. The murder of their father. No response, by the way, from the President of the United States. To the family of that because you know the main drive caught two manufacturing jobs are labor and energy. We don't compete on the labor cost side. Partner, the last part of my plan is to, and insulting the Canadians in the way he's doing. That oil should be flowing down into the United States because it creates jobs not only building the pipeline, but that goes to American refineries. It'll go. It takes a second. Come on, guys. Give me a... There you go. These are the kind of, this is the kind of person the solid conservative voice. And so saying to the justice, who are the people that you think share individual questions? If they show they believe that the appropriate role of courts in America is not to make law from the bench, but live under, then you got a chance of being appointed. That and the blessing from Sam Alito, that'll be two good starts. That's the kind of justices I'll appoint. Very, very important. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thanks
morning.
for being here today. My name is Annie Cox. My husband was Staff Sergeant Nathan Cox. Those of us who received the SBPDIC and get rid of the offset and actually take care of the families of the fallen and get on the VA and have them stop pushing the pills that are trying to treat all these soldiers. We need your help.
Yes, you do.
You know, we live just above the poverty level. That ultimate sacrifice was not worth it. What can you do?
Well, a few things. First off, I want to say to you on Veterans Day that it saddens me, really saddens me, to see the look in your eyes and to hear the words coming out of your mouth that the ultimate sacrifice wasn't worth it. Now, I never would expect that any widow or widower of someone who lost the love of their life would ever think that that sacrifice is worth it. But the fact that you're now obviously being tortured by what's absolutely inexcusable, and every American who hears what you just had to say will be rightfully outraged by the fact that your husband's sacrifice is not only not being honored, but that what he would want done for his family is not being done by the government who promised him that they would do it.
Right.
So a few things. First off, we need to take care, much better care, of those who are left behind in every way possible. The VA system is broken. And, you know, Hillary Clinton was asked the other day about this, and she said, there is no crisis at the VA. Well, I'd like her to come and talk to any of the families who have been subjected to the lying and the deceit and the lack of care that's been given at the VA, and the bad care that's been given at the VA, and see if she can maintain that opinion. Here's what I would do. First, on the VA side is, any veteran in this country who has served his or her nation should be able to take their veterans card to any healthcare provider, any doctor, any hospital, and get their health care paid for. That's what they promised them. They should not wait for pre-approval. They should not have to be working from an approved list of doctors. They should be able to go as close or as far away from their home as they like to the doctor that they think gives them the best opportunity to get well, whatever their malady is. But secondly, I don't want to get rid of the VA because there is a great deal of expertise within the VA system on issues like prosthetics, on issues like PTSD, that can be helpful. And I want to also say that there are a lot of compassionate employees in the VA too, who care deeply about veterans and want to dedicate their lives to them, but have been overrun by the politics of all this and by the upper level of management. That, by the way, I will also say, the president has not fired one person other than the Secretary of Veterans Affairs over all this happened, and he didn't cook this problem up all by himself. Looking at who are the people who are really responsible for this. Second thing I would do to maintain the VA system is, we don't, with all due respect to the generals and the admirals of the world, we need another general or admiral running the VA. What we need is someone who has run a healthcare system in America. We need to go to the best hospital CEO in America, and I will go to that person as president-elect and say to them, your nation needs you to sacrifice 2 years of your life to come in here and straighten this mess out. And I think the VA is now a hospital system. Let's get a hospital CEO to run this hospital system and save the expertise we've developed over the last 50 years for battlefield injuries, so that if a veteran wants to avail themselves of the VA hospital, because the VA hospital is the best care they can get for a particular problem, they should have access to that. But they should not have access to just that. And the card system they have now is a joke. The card system we should put into effect is the one that allows you to go to your doctor down the street, to your hospital in your neighborhood, or to one in the big city far away. But it should not be up to anyone other than the veteran to make that choice. You want to follow up?
I just have something else to say. You know, when we receive the benefits that we get, we can get remarried, but we lose our benefits. If we wait till we're 57, we don't lose our benefits. I don't think that's right. Like you said before, this isn't 1960.
No.
How can we go forward without being married to the government? I mean, if there's a soldier and he's getting 100% disability, they can get married and divorced and they don't lose nothing, but we lose everything.
Yeah.
It's not right.
It's unfair, and it is not recognizing the idea we talked about before, which was what you want to do is maintain families. And when you lose a central member of your family, there should be no reason that the surviving spouse should have to choose between the benefits that they have earned and being able to move on with their life. You know, none of us in this room would say to the surviving spouse of a serviceman or woman, listen, when you marry a serviceman or woman, that's it. The rest of your life, if you lose them, you can't have another spouse. They should have the opportunity to find companionship again. They should have the opportunity to find the stability again that comes from a committed relationship. And I don't understand why, as a government, we would ever disincentivize that. And that's what I meant in the first part of my answer. We need to give you the benefits that you have earned without strings attached to them. You know, we'll always work on preventing fraud and people who are trying to game the system. And by the way, there will always be people who will try to do that. Always. It doesn't matter. I saw it in Hurricane Sandy. Some of the most reprehensible stuff of people who were trying to steal benefits from those who really, really needed it. But that shouldn't be. That's the tail wagging the dog. We have to have it the other way around, and I absolutely agree with you on that issue. We should allow those surviving spouses to move on with their lives when they in their heart believes it's the right time to do it, not based upon what's in their checkbook.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Adamu. I'm originally from Nigeria. I'm happily married here. I have the question written. Sure. All advanced countries have something in common at the core of their democracies, which is fiscal autonomy, starting from the city level all the way to the federal, assigning responsibility as well, which public service is best done at which level. You and I knew very well that this structure is the foundation of a system that creates jobs. There is no help you can give to anyone like helping them to take care of themselves. To teach someone how to fish rather than give them the fish, as the saying goes. For example, in Nigeria, we don't have a city government. Our entire system depends on the people at the top giving money to the people at the bottom, which is an unsustainable way to do anything. There's no incentive to do anything. Instead of giving aid to these countries, do you think it would be a good idea to wager US aid to say a country, if you do these policies that will create jobs like city government, give them autonomy, give local counties autonomy, give states autonomy, we will give you aid instead of just giving them. Do you think that would be a good idea to wager US aids to those kind of policies?
I understand the question. Listen, first off, foreign aid is a really difficult and contentious issue in our country, especially when we have $19 trillion in debt. I think that we need to continue to help countries around the world and the way I would put it would be, those countries whose interests are aligned with ours, that are doing the kind of things that we think need to be done. Now, I don't want to go into Nigeria, for instance, and micromanage the Nigerian government. I'm going to have enough on my hands with the American government than to worry about running the Nigerian government or any other government. What I'm more concerned about than what you're talking about, although I think it's a very valid concern, is how are they conducting themselves in the world? How are they conducting themselves as a neighbor? Are they someone who is fighting against terrorist activity or harboring terrorist activity? Are they someone who's supporting democracy and freedom for everyone around the world, or are they oppressing their own people? Those are the decisions I think we have to make on whether we give aid to a country like Nigeria or any other country. So they're bigger issues than just the structure of their government. Although the fact is that if they're oppressing their own people through that system, which your question implies, that's something that we need to be concerned about. So it's bigger than just what you're talking about. I wouldn't wager it just on that. It would be that plus. They need to show how they are as a world citizen as well. We do not need to be sending money, hard-earned American tax money, to countries that are trying to do us harm. It doesn't make any sense. And to me, that would be the number one priority of what we would have, and everything flows from there. But you are right that in a system where all the power is concentrated at the top, them to succeed. So okay, thanks for answering the question. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Governor. I'm an entrepreneur here like Mickey and part of the middle class, which has become an endangered species in our country. And we lose the middle class and we lose our country. So my question is, you know, as a small business owner, and I believe small and medium-sized businesses always fueled our economy, and it's the right way to grow the economy. But I'm punished at every turn. Just like Mickey here, when she's an employee, I get double taxed on the payroll tax. In my retirement, again on cash tax, multinational corporations who changed their address from Denver to Rio, and we just lost $1 billion in tax revenue. So my question is, you know, we all agree that we need to spend less and capture more, but the reason Big Pharma and all these other multinational corporations aren't called on the carpet is because they're funding campaigns for people like Hillary, and she'll never call them on the carpet. Do you have any plans to alleviate the tax burden that's crushing the middle class and small business owners, okay, in particular the payroll tax, the capital gains, the death tax, and all these things? We have to work until June now to make a single dollar for ourselves. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you for being here.
Sure. Thank you. We put out a really detailed plan. There's a lot of what you're just talking about. Tax plan says we are going to get rid of on the individual side all of the deductions and loopholes except for two: the home mortgage interest deduction and the charitable contribution deduction. That's it. Because we want to continue to have people be encouraged to buy and own homes. It's good for the American economy. It's good for American families. And I want you to be able to decide which charities you want to support. Not have me decide as the president where I want to send your money. I want you to decide which charities do you believe are doing the best work in your community, in your state, in your country. And you support that. And I want you to continue to support it because the more good non-governmental organizations we have, that's a good thing. Second, on the corporate side, the reason they're changing their address from Denver to Rio is because we're killing them. We're killing them from a tax perspective. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, 35%. And we're one of the only countries in the world, along with North Korea, hear this, the United States, North Korea, I think there's two others, that double tax. So if you're an American company, let's say Pfizer, and you have an operation in Great Britain, and you make money in Great Britain, you pay tax in Great Britain on that money. Then you want to take that money, because you're an American company, what you've got left, and bring it back to the U.S. to invest in research and development or job creation. We tax you again at 35%. And we give you no credit for the tax you paid in Great Britain. Crazy. So what do? They keep the money over there. They don't invest it in creating jobs here. They don't invest it in research and development here. And so what I've said we need to do is we need to end the double taxation system. Pay your tax once. Get rid of the loopholes and deductions for the corporations. Lower the tax rate from 35 to 25. That'll put us about in the middle of the rest of the world, which is off from a lot of other advantages other than just tax rate. And to save for the now over $2 trillion that American companies are keeping overseas, we'll allow them to repatriate it one time at a tax rate of 8.75%. Now, let me tell you this. Right now we're getting 35% is zero. Even a lawyer can do that math. That's zero. 8.75% of $2 trillion. What I would do with that money then, for at least a part of it, is bring that home to fund infrastructure, to fund roads and bridges and tunnels and mass transit systems throughout this country that are crumbling and that we need to fix. And then we don't have to raise the gas tax to do that. We can do it through this repatriated money. The other thing that you didn't mention, but I know is implied in your question, is the other thing that's killing you as a small business is regulation. Right? Whether it's Dodd-Frank in the banking business, whether it's Obamacare, or all Small Business Administration now says that for any small business in America, the cost of complying with federal regulation is $10,000 per employee. $10,000 per employee. Well, why aren't small businesses adding employees? Because they know that. They're like, well, damn, before I even pay their salary, that's not counting their payroll taxes or the rest of it. That's to comply with the regulation. It's $10,000 per employee. And for your question, sir, you know what it is for a manufacturer to comply with federal regulation in this country? $34,000 per employee. So I'm going to do as president what I did as governor of New Jersey, because I had a crazy liberal governor before me who regulated all kinds of stuff, John Corzine, who I defeated for re-election. We went ahead and our first executive order was to freeze any new regulation from any department or agency of state government for 90 days. And then I sent my lieutenant governor out to have open public meetings with members of the Democratic legislature. Want them to sit there and with small business folks like you all across our state. And we said, what regulations are the most onerous, the most expensive, the most ridiculous? Come to us with a list. By the end of that first year, we got rid of 1/3 of all the regulation of my predecessor with the stroke of a pen. And it came from, not us, it came from the small businessmen and women of New Jersey who said, could you get rid of this? Let me tell you why this is ridiculous. Let me tell you how much money this is costing me. Let me tell you why this is preventing me from hiring new people. I will do the same thing as president. My first executive order as president would freeze any new regulation of any department or agency of the federal government for 90 days, and I will send my vice president out, along with members of Congress, to hold public meetings throughout the country that you can see on the internet, listen, participate in, and give us all that information, the things that are driving you crazy. And then that's the one thing I don't need the Congress for. That's a stroke of the pen by the president. And that's exactly what I'll do. My second executive order, by the way, will be revoking all of the illegal executive orders that Barack Obama put in place when he was president of the United States. Then we're sending a message to you that we want you to grow your business, that we care about growth. Right now, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and their crowd, what they care about is compliance. You comply with their rules, and then you're going to be okay. If you're not, here comes the IRS, here comes OSHA, here comes the EPA, all to come get you. The message from the Christie administration is grow. Grow your business. Grow, grow, grow. Make our country bigger. And that way, I'll deal with the other problems I get from growth. That'll be just fine. But right now, with 1.5% GDP growth, this country is in bad shape economically, and we need to allow you to get the shackles off and start doing what you do well. I don't want you worrying about complying with the government. I want you worrying about being rich, because guess what? When you get rich, your government gets more money too. It's a good deal for everybody, so that's what we need to do. My staff tells me I can take one more question, which means I will take two. Here's the reason why. I want to remind them at all times who the boss is, because I've had lots of people ask me what it's like to run for president. Let me tell you what it's like to run for president. Here's what it is. It is having younger people younger than you, all day telling you exactly where to go and what to do. That's what running for president is like. Yes, ma'am, right here. He's got a microphone right there for you.
I was one of the initiators of the human trafficking law here in Iowa, and we have a real problem here in the Quad Cities. I'm founder of Breaking Traffic, and this is, the average age is 13, teenage girls, American girls, that is. And so what I want to know is, what can you do with your administration with this modern-day slavery called human trafficking?
I'm so glad you brought that up. In the 7 years that I was U.S. Attorney administration, I did more human trafficking cases than any U.S. attorney in the country.
Oh, great.
And the reason for that is exactly what you said, because it is modern-day slavery, everybody. They either take young, mostly women, sometimes young men, but mostly women, in this country and put them into involuntary servitude, working for nothing. Many of them in the prostitution trade. Women who have lost their way, women who have been separated from their families, and then they also bring, as you know, women in from other countries. And they sneak them in here illegally, and then they have them. Because they say, if you don't do exactly what we say you're going to do, then we're going to turn you into immigration and you're going to get sent out. Or sometimes, as you know, even worse, they threaten their families back home.
Yes.
Because if you don't do this, we're going to kill your mother or your father or your sister or your brother back in your home country. It is a disgrace. What we need to do is two things. One, we need to have an attorney general who will, unlike Eric Holder, will absolutely focus and enforce the law here and prosecute these animals who do this to young women across this country. I will have an attorney general who will do that, because I will pick someone who will do the same thing I did as U.S. attorney, which is to enforce this law and send these folks to jail for a very long time with a very clear message. Second thing we need to do is to lean on those countries around the world who are letting this happen. The president has backed off that. The human trafficking laws in this country, as you know, authored by a New Jersey congressman in the main, Congressman Chris Smith, has been the main author of all these human trafficking laws. we're not using them. There are visas that are permitted to take these young women out of the clutches of these folks and have them stay here in the United States. And there are laws based upon our foreign aid, where we say to countries on your compliance with human trafficking laws in your own country, and stop these folks from being trafficked here. I want to have a Secretary of State who's going to be much, much more aggressive about holding those countries to account, because it's not only keeping law and order in America, it's making sure law and order happens in those countries as well.
And we need some help from you all, the federal government, so that we in the local area can absolutely address this and prosecute statewide these horrible pimps that are, as I say, 13 is the average age in Iowa. So we're trying to do a prevention thing and telling all girls that you are the market. And so we're going into the schools, so we do need help from you.
That's right, and every state should have really tough human trafficking laws. We have them in New Jersey. Every state should have state laws as well, so that you double your force. It's not just federal who can do it. Then you have state law enforcement and state prosecutors who can bring these cases as well.
You're right.
And we need to encourage folks across the country to do that.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
First, I want to thank you for coming here. You first started talking to us about being pro-life. My question to you is, you addressed several different communities within our country. What is your pro-life view on our gay and our homeless communities?
We'll start with the homeless community. You know, in New Jersey as governor, what I've tried to do, available to folks, to give them a temporary hand up. Most folks who are homeless, they never wanted to be homeless, and it's a temporary circumstance, we hope, for them. But we need to give them the opportunity both, what we've set up in New Jersey is one-stop centers for them, where there's a single point of entry to get all the different services you need to get yourself back on your feet. So, because it's been so complicated, there's so many different programs, and folks, especially homeless folks, do not have the capacity or the resources to be able to figure it out. And what we've started in our state are absolute single points of entry for all the different services to do, but all of it is geared towards getting the lesbian community all the rights that other Americans have. I don't believe in same-sex marriage. I vetoed it as governor of New Jersey because I believe marriage means something. I believe it's a word that has 2,000 years of meaning, and that meaning is a union between a man and a woman. I believe. But what I also tell you is, it does not mean that members of the gay and lesbian community should not have equal rights. And we can do that. Now, this matter now seems to be fairly from the Supreme Court's actions in the last year or so. And so it's not an issue that's being discussed a lot anymore in the country. But what I'll tell you is that before it was, you need to know what my position was. You know, I can't act as if history didn't happen. So I'm someone who opposed same-sex marriage, and I feel strongly about it. But the other job when you're governor or president is you take an oath. And your oath is to enforce the laws and to uphold the Constitution. And it's not just enforce the laws that you like. It's not just enforce and uphold the parts of the Constitution you agree with. That's lawlessness. That's what Barack Obama's doing right now. That's why we have sanctuary cities, right? That's why we have sanctuary cities. That's why we have legalized marijuana in Colorado and Washington State and Oregon. And when we were in Colorado for the debate, the last debate, the third one, I read a story in the Denver Post where they held a summit of educators. And they said the #1 education challenge, K-12 in Colorado now, is marijuana. Because kids are bringing brownies and cookies and gummy bears laced with marijuana to school. Now let me just tell you something, everybody. I had enough time to do an algebra and physics straight. If I were ever high, no chance I'd be able to figure it out. My point is we need to enforce the laws, whether we agree with them or we disagree with them. If we disagree with them, we fight to try to get the laws changed. But we use our process to do that. We don't sign illegal executive orders. We don't say what we wish the law would be. You go in and you fight to convince people. That's what leadership is. Leadership is not just about following polls. Leadership is about changing polls. And so I believe that the gay and lesbian community should have all the rights that they're entitled to as American citizens. I've been opposed to same-sex marriage, but it's now the law of the land. And as the law of the land, if I were to be president, I'd have the absolute obligation to enforce those laws unless they were changed. And if they were changed, then I have the obligation to enforce those laws. But here's the one thing I can tell you for sure, you'll never have to wonder what I'm thinking about it. Okay, and this president for years opposed same-sex marriage. For years. When he ran in 08, he was opposed to it. When he ran for re-election in 12, the beginning of that campaign, he was opposed to it until Biden told him he was for it. Hillary Clinton was against same-sex marriage, and all of a sudden she saw it was, politically advantageous for her within her own party to be for it, and so she changed her position too. Here's the thing on me. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. And sometimes you agree with it, and sometimes you won't. But I will tell you, if you're looking for the candidate you agree with 100% of the time, before you go to the caucuses, go home and look in the mirror. You're it. You're the only person you agree with 100% of the time. And for those of us who are married, we know that for sure, right? So, fact is, what you should be looking for is a candidate who will tell you the truth as they see it and agrees with you as much as they possibly can. And so I'll continue to address these issues forthrightly and directly. You won't have to wonder where I stand. And on the ones where we agree, we lock arms and we move forward together. And the ones where we disagree, we say, okay, we can't see eye to eye on this one. We'll work together on the next one. And that's the way I'd work on issues like that. And thank you for asking. All right. So, two things before I go. First, I want to thank you all for coming. Really great to come here first thing in the morning in Iowa and have such a great crowd of people here and have you all so interested in asking questions. I appreciate that very, very much. I tell people all the time when we go home to New Jersey and ask, what's it like campaigning in Iowa? I say, listen, if you're cynical about politics, which you have every right to be, cynicism will begin to melt away because you folks take your responsibility incredibly seriously. You've been showing up at town hall meetings since last and you've been taking in 15 candidates. I mean, I remember when I came to Iowa for Mitt Romney 4 years ago, right? I heard all kinds of people complain. They said, there's not somebody I really want to pick. All kinds of complaining from folks in Iowa about that. Now I come back 4 years later, you know what I hear? There's too many of you. It's too hard. So here you are, you are the Goldilocks of American politics, okay? You're going to get to decide which porridge is just right. Not too hot, not too cold, the one that's just right. But what I tell people in New Jersey is it's gratifying to come here because you listen and you ask great questions and you care. You realize what an important role you play in the American political system, and you need to continue to do that and be serious about it as you get ready for February 1st in the caucuses. And second is to let you know that I'm going to work as hard as I can to earn your trust, your support, and your vote. That I want to be President of the United States. There's some of these folks going around and campaigning, they'll be talking about, how hard it is and how difficult it is, and it wasn't what I thought it would be, and I wish it were different, I wish it were... You're never going to hear that stuff from me. Ever. I'm fighting hard to be President of the United States because I want the job. I want to do the job with you and for you. It's the greatest honor you can ever give to anyone, to give them the opportunity to be the leader of your nation. And anybody who whines and moans and complains about the process should pack and go home. I'm never going to do that. And you'll see me fight really hard to win this thing, so you'll never have to wonder how hard I'll fight once I get there. Because if I fight hard to win it, you can bank on the fact that I'm going to fight at least that hard to make it a success. And I tried to do this last night in the debate, and I'll leave you with this as Republicans. For those of you who are fellow Republicans in this room, we cannot take our eye off the ball. We cannot get caught spending more time bickering with each other. We cannot say, this is the world the way we'd like it to be. We got to go win in the world we're in. And I will tell you this. One thing I've proven to everybody over my career is under the most difficult circumstances, being tested more than anybody else, I know how to win. And we cannot let Hillary Rodham Clinton be the next president of the United States. We will not recognize our nation when she's done with it. And so I'm offering to you one simple service. Give me the chance, and next November,
I will keep her so far away from the White House that she'll have to get a pass to come and visit, all right?